Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr with me, your host, Imperial Dane. We will be having a look here at Mechanized Assault openings right here today, which of course means there's been a bit of a focus here on the assault grenadiers, since they'll be the primary part of that. And essentially there are currently sort of two openings you can rather conduct with them. There's one which I primarily use if I do go for a Mechanized Assault opening, that is, I use them to sort of gain a small initial edge, and otherwise then use them to augment my force by having a close quarters combat unit with grenades handy for clearing out buildings, and of course submachine guns and overall increased squad durability to have that extra squad member. Then usually you get some extra other units from the Infanterie Compagnie, but overall you generally only get one assault grenadier, maybe two if you're feeling really lucky, but overall still few assault grenadiers, and overall they'll just be there to sort of give you an extra HP. For example, right here I'm rushing towards on his vital fuel points, that way hoping to gain the edge, that way of course taking on any units sort of individually. Also generally when you go for that kind of opening, of course you generally of course always want to do that with assault guns, but usually one sort of fighting territory we can then sort of take advantage of their sort of close quarter superiority. You don't want them in positions where the opponent can easily gauge them from range. That of course helps a bit as well. And of course right here in this case, in this matchup, of course my opponent is so kind as to help me a bit with this. But overall of course in this kind of engagement, I mean I will have the advantage, and of course the usual sort of counter to this kind of thing would of course be your opponent to amass infantry and then make for a larger concerted push in the right sort of direction. And of course being careful about, you know, getting too close to the assault grenadiers. And of course right here, as you might have noticed, I actually drew him in towards the cover and then sort of counter-attack quickly in that regard, you know, and ensuring he wouldn't move away again. Of course then he'd be out in the open, which would rather be to the advantage of my assault grenadiers a bit as well. So right here of course initially continue to function out, and again overall here I'm not going for the usual sort of thing again. I'm going for a bit more modified opening for me as well in this regard, by going more on MGs, but usually then I get two grenadiers, an MG for example, and then I might take up or get another MG depending on how things look. But overall you get one assault gunner, one to two additional grenadiers, an MG and something like that. Again, the assault gunners are basically a minority in your force. But overall did quite well here, really put the hurt on my opponent initially, rather maimed a few infantry squads, and again got them the fuel, and then of course more normal forces then follow up on the assault infantry's wake and take up sort of defensive positions, then sort of digging into Waterhole. So that's also a bit of part of this kind of opening. Again, the assault gunners then going sort of using that little opening they have in a, well, they actually are advantageous then in the first few minutes of the game. You then sort of quickly follow up with regular troops to then hold the ground you sort of took, whatever advantages ground you took with them. Now, of course, you usually want to be careful about fighting around them with buildings, since they do lose a lot of effectiveness against troops ensconced in buildings. That would also be one of the ways of sort of countering this early on. Fight them from buildings, since submachine guns are rather rubbish against troops in buildings. So right there, of course, things are rather becoming apparent with this kind of opening. At least I should hope so. I should hope so. And of course you might then later on get more assault gunners, and again as the game passes on they lose less and less in effect as they appear, and of course then you might sort of get them just simply because, well, you know, they're tougher than others and they can instantly be called in. But overall again, generally as this part of an opening, you usually get only one and then get some regular troops to then again hold what you take with them, hopefully. And of course otherwise augment your troops as they fight, you know, flanking, attacking, and again if there's someone dug in a building you get them teched up, and then you'll pop the steel granate assault and clear out the devils. That is more sort of this kind of thing. Also just a sort of quick note on why I'm only doing this for the Germans. The Russians don't really have any currently commanders that really have, you know, an initial unit can start off right away with. That's why I'm rather going this as Germans, since again, you know, they're actually sort of more intended to sort of be conducted with openings. So, little thing there, just in case someone are confused. Just in case someone are confused, which could easily happen. But there we go, the sort of first 5 minutes again, sort of a quick, brief explanation of this kind of opening. Hopefully you got the ideas of it, the strengths, the weaknesses, and of course, you know, how you might sort of decide to deal with it as a Soviet opponent. Now we will sort of move on and look on the other variant of this kind of opening, or at least the Mechanized Assault opening. And welcome back here to the second half of the Mechanized Assault openings video. Once more the assault gunners appear, but as you might be noticing, immediately also our friend here stole churches to being, which basically means, I think, proud to be German. Anyways, he doesn't set up an infantry company at all. This is pretty much the other one. This is one where you then pretty much focus exclusively on the assault gunners, and of course, in that regard, you're more aggressively towards seizing territory early on, and otherwise pushing your opponent as hard as you can with a lot of assault infantry. So in that case, you're really hoping to overwhelm your opponent. Of course, in that regard, there can be some advantages, but at the same time, you're going to be lacking in the ability to hold ground, and again, you know, your MP40s to a certain extent are not really going to be that helpful in holding off an assault. And again, you'll be having fewer squads, since these are more expensive and more expensive to reinforce. So in that regard, you're much dependent on attacking the right spot to sort of, you know, keep the map control, because otherwise, if your opponent outmaneuvers you, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that is rather vital to remember about this kind of opening. If you do decide to go for it, and of course sticking to cover and all such along the way is a very good idea. Overall, you want to keep them alive as long as possible, obviously. And of course, already now, I mean, initially there might be some advantage, and again, he's not clearly seemingly pushing right hard towards the opponent. Well, he might be expecting something here, I mean, but he's quickly falling behind in the unit count overall.
We have new units.
So of course that is getting a bit dangerous already there. Third squad of assault grenadiers. A certain opponent, they're also grabbing some territory. And he's going very aggressively towards here so far, but again, no initial engagement though. It's this kind of, you know, opening though, you'd usually see a bit more aggressive towards the opponent. You'd sort of try and hunt them down and sort of cut them off at the beginning, sort of try and limit their ability to take ground much more aggressively. But right now, of course, we're seeing something actually happening here again. Getting up close and taking in the advantage there with the MP40s, the Maschinenpistolen 40 against those vile Ruskies. Fighting away there. Overall, gaining the initial advantage. In that regard, another one here. Country's pulling back, but also then, of course, we see here what can happen again. He pops into a building all of a sudden. Things looking a bit more advantageous, though again in this case, it's not all bad. I mean, considering if he positions correctly here, there's only going to be one gentleman firing at him. So in that regard, not all bad. Not all bad. Though, not the best unit disposition. Again, they're too far away in some regards. We'd like to see a bit more closer. But still, pushing hard, trying to do some damage. Though again, why he's standing at range with his MP40s here, beyond me. He really should be moving closer and again up around there. There we go. Again, you know, they have trouble using buildings, though again, in this case, things will be under chasing. Of course, we see another situation. Units have been sconced, but again, assault grenades all of a sudden. A lot of them are not looking so good. Of course, you need to take up for that, but still, not half bad. Units bringing from other sides, and we might see these conscripts here mowed down, but no, they do manage to get out of there. He could probably intercept them had he been a bit faster towards coming there. And there we go, another poor shot down. And of course from up here he probably couldn't have hold on, though again he might have tried and sneak them in. Around here again, forcing his opponent to get closer, and then pursuing them once more with a bit of killing intentions. But again, very much dependent on throwing in a lot of assault grenadiers. You could then of course get this, and of course this is rather common. Sort of go for the light mechanized company and get, for example, some half-tracks or some panzer grenadiers to then further augment the firepower. Though again, you could also try and work your way towards the 3 command points, and then, for example, get a mechanized assault group, and that way throw your opponent a bit off guard. That is most assuredly also an option. Then again, going for the vital points, so his opponent, though. And in that regard, I mean, we do see that, you know, despite his overall count, he's still managing to sort of gain the overall map advantage. Again, his opponent perhaps could be counting this a bit harder, and for some reason he actually completely fell back. But again, you know, 2 squads of conscripts can prove quite a threat. And in that regard, you know, if your opponent is spreading out his assault grenadiers a lot, I mean, you want to sort of mow them down separately by engaging with larger forces. Again here, a chance for assault grenadiers in this regard. I mean, he really needs to do it again now. There's actually more windows firing, and this is much more disadvantageous to the assault grenades. So this really should be a point for assault grenades. Come on! Assault! Sturm! Nach Hause. Anyways, sort of again a brief sort of overview of the other kind of opening you can pull off with the mechanized assault. Again, we see the sort of different advantages here. This one overall, again, very much aggressively, but as we'll also be noting, it's not very good at defending. Which is also, well, then again, why you might follow this with some Panzers who are, despite everything, better defending with their Sturmgewehrs, and of course half-tracks and scout cars can help with that. Also the Pak 14 again, I mean, that's also going to be another massive weakness. I mean, you'll be extremely vulnerable to vehicles. Extremely, since you have absolutely nothing there, and again, that's means you're very much dependent on this one for actually getting anything that can help you with vehicles. A scout car pack or some Panzer gunners with a puncher strike. Either way, again, there are some definite weaknesses there. We didn't get to see them in this match, but again, keep in mind they are there. In fact, as we're about to see here, as we are in fact seeing accounts being brought in already here from Mechanised with his scout car. A nice idea, by the way, again, definitely one of the weaknesses, one of the great weaknesses to this kind of opening, the full mechanized assault with full assault grenadiers opening. So hopefully with these sort of two small clips here in this video, you might have a strong idea if you know if mechanized assault is something for you. More specifically, you know the mechanized assault openings are something for you. And of course, you might stand stronger with them, but also, in the case you're facing them, you might also find yourself a bit better prepared and a bit better understanding of how perhaps you know to deal with these kinds of things. So, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something, and that is the primary part of these Propagandacast Lehr. If you did, want to subscribe, tell your friends. If you didn't, well, you know, hopefully I'll do better next time. Provide some feedback in the comments to sort of help me clue in on what could do better than the next time. But hopefully you learned something from this. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.